We should be live right now. So, hey everyone, welcome to uh, a LinkedIn Live, which is, I don't know, about a year overdue. Some of you who know me know that I started doing this last year, ultimately to share my network with all of you out there who may not know some of the folks I do, share knowledge as well. And my guests were really great, but I felt like something was lacking. And, you know, uh, I ran into an old colleague of mine here, Tracy Coon, as you can see. And I don't consider her a guest. I would say collaborator is more like it because we hope to take this discussion beyond just today. Um, and those of you who may not know me, my name is Manish Patel. I worked with Tracy at American Standard. Of course, it was Big Corp, so I don't know if Tracy and I even interacted. We probably saw each other in meetings that had like 50 people in them. Very efficient stuff. And we did everything from toilets to sinks to faucets to kitchen sinks. So here we are, some years later. I have been in the process of trying to be a successful entrepreneur the last 15 years, either doing branding, my own brands, products. In fact, I launched this brand last year. It's a small apparel brand, not looking to take over the entire world of clothing, but it's a purpose-driven brand about kindness and sharing your stories of kindness and, hey, wearing some healthy, organic, chemical-free apparel too. So check that out when you get a chance. I don't want to take up too much time with that. But before we get into the topic, Tracy, if you don't mind doing a better job at introducing yourself than I did, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Like you said, we go way back from American Standard. I've got probably over 20 years of marketing and branding experience under my belt, most recently at Philips Lighting, now Signify. I'm really excited about the topics that we have today with, just really looking at brand intention and some of the interesting things that are happening out there in the marketplace with different brands. Um, so I'm excited about this conversation. I've had a lot of experience with digital, Marcom, been entering the world of AI and using a lot of the AI tools and seeing how they can help us accelerate the work that we do. So that's another topic that I'm pretty passionate about. And when I'm not doing this kind of work, I volunteer with Lasagna Love. It's a charity that delivers lasagnas from chefs like me. And it's very grassroots, very homegrown. And you sign up, you can get matched with the family, you bake a lasagna, and you deliver it personally to your door. And that's a charity that means a lot to me.
Well, now you made me hungry, but let's dive into it because there is quite a bit of great information that you're looking to share. And so first, I'll just start off with so just to outline kind of an agenda for today. I'm going to talk about our main topic is about brand risk and intention, and the reason we came upon this topic is because of recent events related to some actions, campaigns by certain brands that got different types of reactions, whether it was just a ad campaign or an entire rebrand. I think you mostly probably know what I'm referring to already. And Tracy is going to take whatever mess I make of this, and really, as she mentioned, she's going to talk about some real targeted tools that can be used. It's 2025, right? And some of the mistakes that have been made, while not wholly avoidable, you can definitely minimize your risk, right? So, I think I mentioned earlier on LinkedIn, I said insurance bet, right? Well, for those of you who don't play blackjack, an insurance bet is something that happens when you want to insure yourself against the dealer hitting 21 against you. And in this particular case, American Eagle, right, had this campaign with Sydney Sweeney about her jeans, and it got a lot of blowback. But it seems like they survived that initial blowback. They actually got a little bit of momentum out of it. the stock price, based on who knows what reality, it rallied. We'll find out in 6 months or so what the real impact is, right? When they really report the outcome of this campaign, or the outcome shows up in top line revenue. But what they did is they didn't retreat. What's interesting is literally within a month, they came out with a new campaign with football player and Taylor Swift fiance Travis Kelsey, right? So what they did there is they addressed the issues that gave them all the blowback, right? Related to great genes. They went with a very diverse crowd, different sizes and shapes and colors of people, and somehow they've been knocked off the headline, off out of the headlines by other stories. Oh wow, okay, this one, right? So this one is one I think Tracy's. Obviously a lot of people have talked about it. They've mocked it. I don't know if I've heard anyone actually credit that brand for doing this, the business for doing this. I think the CEO is under a lot of fire still. But it seems like customers are happy because they did a U-turn. That's what I refer to as the U-turn, right? And if you look at the timeline, August 21st was the announcement of the new logo. August 27th, we're back to where we started, right? There was quite a bit missed, it seems, in taking this action, and so they went back to, I guess, their roots, what their customers were used to, and decided that maybe we'll do things differently, perhaps make the product better, make the menu better, do things more subtly, right? There was talk of maybe this new logo still being out there, but only on merchandise or something to that effect. But this is 2025, and Tracy's going to hit on it. There's a lot of ways to avoid this, especially for a brand that's got millions of dollars, billions of dollars at stake, which Cracker Barrel does, and of course, probably millions of dollars to invest in doing this the right way. And so the last one, though, I'm going to bring up is something I had a sort of personal, um, uh, experience for, let's say, a bird's eye view into. When Tropicana in 2009, I guess, approached this subject of their juice, their orange juice, because at the same time they rebranded Pepsi, the Pepsi master brand as well, and a couple of others, which were met, pretty positively. There's always criticisms, but in general, the Pepsi logo redesign of that era was really well received. But then Tropicana was a different story. The idea behind it was that they wanted to kind of match up with a competitor and show the actual juice, right? I mean, this is like a brand decision. Like, well, we've been showing this orange with a straw in it, which I think is really clever and cool. They decided, well, let's show a glass of orange juice. The beauty of the juice itself. And I don't know if you could see it on screen, but one of the niftier aspects of this redesign, which was actually a good part of it, probably the best part, was actually taking the little cap at the top and turning it into half an orange with the orange peel texture. And so that kind of got lost, I think, in what happened, and turned into a nightmare for them, right? As you can see, the cost of doing all of this work was significant for $2,009, and it probably was more. But people walked into the stores expecting to find Tropicana and couldn't find it because they didn't recognize it, right? They thought it was a generic box of juice. And so, as you can tell, there was a loss in sales that was quite significant very quickly. And again, a rapid U-turn occurred, and Tropicana went back to their original look and feel, right? Which is what people were used to. So there's many other stories. There's Jaguar that just redid their brand, which that kind of got, I think, a more negative reception. I mean, I didn't like it particularly because I'm used to seeing the Jaguar, and they got rid of the Jaguar, which is one of the icons of the automotive industry. And then you got rid of probably the cornerstone symbol of the brand. So There are many others. There are others that do a great job. You know, maybe not at a logo level. That's very, very subjective. But at a campaign level, they do some. There's some brands that maybe Tracy will get into. So Tracy, I'm going to stop now because I laid out all the mistakes people made because I'm good at that, right? 2020 hindsight, there's nothing better than that. But I know you have some thoughts on these topics and others, specific campaigns or brands, and then let's get into the real, meat of this discussion, which is potential solutions. So I'm going to stop there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Great.
easy to be an armchair quarterback and look in hindsight at what brands are doing without knowing the brief and what was going around in the room when these decisions were made. But I like these stories because I feel like there's a lot we can learn from them and apply to our own brands and our own work. I want to focus on the Cracker Barrels. I feel like this is really interesting. Like I grew up going to Cracker Barrel restaurants as a kid. Like you do the family road trip and you see the Cracker Barrel, and that's where you stop for lunch or dinner. And there's a lot of nostalgia there. And I feel the nostalgia, like that country kitsch, is kind of what makes the Cracker Barrel brand. And that's what people expect to see. So if you're going to be making these sweeping changes where you're changing the menu, you're changing the interior of the store, you're changing the branding, like you're removing Uncle Herschel, the guy who's leaning on the barrel, these are big changes that can alienate a core audience. I feel like that was the mistake that they made. Now, I don't know if they did any research with their audience. Like, did they do any testing to find out, hey, if we remove this guy from the logo, how are people going to respond? Or if we do this kind of decor and like remove the antiques and declutter the interiors, will people like that better? If we simplify the menu, will people respond well? So all these decisions are being made within like, the span of a few years, which is kind of short in brand years. And they're big changes, and people do not like big changes all at once. So, my recommendation for a situation like this, if you're looking to evolve your brand, like I get it, you have demographics that are shifting and changing. Maybe you want to attract, new people to your store, to your business. How do you attract them without alienating your core base? And I feel like that could be a mistake that Cracker Barrel might have made here. They made so many changes that their core base, which is a demographic of people like 65 and older, and it's a pretty big chunk of customers for them, by making these changes, they've alienated that audience. So, regardless of whatever the decision was behind the logo change, it could be something as simple as we're in a digital world and you want to simplify it so you can make it look good on a banner ad or in social media. Um, Whatever the decision making was behind that, removing that guy really alienated a lot of people. It took away the nostalgia, it took away the kitsch, it really took away the essence of what people expect to see in a Cracker Barrel. So for them to do that U-turn, I feel was a good decision, but a little bit of prevention could have, saved them a lot of money and time and the backlash because there is a cost to getting the negative press and to alienating your customers. One way they could have done this was testing the concepts first with their core audience, and this could be done either with, actual people, you have a focus group, we're all used to that kind of stuff, or if you want to do some down and dirty testing just real quick and see what the signals are out there, you can run a test through a tool like ChatGPT. Just make sure you have like the right parameters. It doesn't replace a human, but you can put the concepts up there, give the AI a role, like assume the role of your demographic, feed it the details on your core audience so that way it behaves and understands what's important to that audience, and then present the concepts and ask the tool to give a hypothetical response. Now, again, this does not replace humans, but it can kind of give you an idea to read the room before you invest all that money. So it's like a way of taking those small steps before you go down the road and making these big investments. If the AI tools tell you that, yeah, this is going to be a problem, our audience feels alienated by this, there's going to be a backlash, then that gives you the ammunition you need to take it a little bit further, maybe put this in front of real human beings and seeing how they respond.
So
So,
it's interesting you mentioned the real human being part of it because, as I mentioned earlier, they've got millions of dollars at their disposal in a marketing budget. And even as small as my projects are, because I work with a lot of startups sometimes, or people that are just, say, inventors, whether it's a digital product or a physical product, and knowing my own tendencies to think everything make or create is great. Um, the real validation needs to be done with insights, real insights. And I recommend, even with people who are, like I said, just starting up, right? Because I would love nothing more than to do a project with somebody and bill, right? But at the same time, I want it to be a successful project. And the first step to that is assessing whether or not their idea has a market. And I mean, a real life story is I had a client, an acquaintance that had an idea for a digital product in real estate. And, he could have spent $500,000, $750,000 building that product out. I would have been happy to, collect some of that. But I said, why don't we do a focus group? To his credit, we did a focus group with about 20, 30 stakeholders of the people he thought were going to be his customers. Well, guess what? It was very clear after those focus groups that nobody that he thought was going to be his customer, right, or his advocate was going to do any of that. And he would have had a serious loss on his hands if he didn't take that step. And I really give him a lot of credit to it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do a project, but at the same time, I didn't end up doing a project that fails either. So you mentioned, brand evolution versus, I don't know, what do you call these other brand explosions that they tried, or
Yeah, we can
demolitions?
way to look at it. Brand demolition, brand explosion.
So, if you could talk, I know we've talked a lot offline about tools within AI. And of course, you've got our email addresses at the bottom, folks. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions you might have as follow ups. But the point is, Tracy, if you could share a little more about, at least scrape the surface of what AI tools can be used, because not everybody has a Cracker Barrel budget.
Yeah, sure. If you don't have that big brand budget, or even if you do have a big brand and a small team, you just need to work quickly. I love mining things like Reddit, LinkedIn, like Shopify, user forums, basically any public platform where actual people are having conversations about things important to them. You can mine these for really important voice of the customer data. And this is something I'm really passionate about because it's a gold mine out there. So to use that, you want to craft your prompt into like a research mode. You want to use the thinking mode, so that way it's taking its time. But you give it a role. Maybe it's a marketing intelligence. You tell it what to look for. So maybe you're looking for founders, large corporations, but you're basically telling it who to look for. And you want to go into maybe pain points or a conversational topic. And it's not keywords, it's keyword phrases, because you want to think about what are people saying on these forums, and you want to find those conversations. I used an example where I was working with a client and I had to come up with persona data.
Do you want to
And
bring up any of the anything you were ready to present? If you want, I can put that online. And
I don't have
nothing
the
yet. Okay.
yeah, I don't have the VOC mining yet, but if anyone's interested in seeing my framework for that, message us or email us and I can send it to you. I do have a pretty robust framework that you can customize. But you're basically like creating the role, you're setting up the parameters, what kind of topics you're looking for in these conversations, what kind of roles, like who are you looking for? And you basically ask it to mine it and you give it a time frame. So maybe you want something within 18 months and you want the verbatims. You don't want to just have snippets. You want the actual full conversation. You want to link back to the conversation so you can go back and validate it. Always validate the work. You don't want to trust the AI output 100%. And what you'll get is a table that has verbatims, tags showing what the sentiment is around the conversation, if it's visible who the person is, like is there a role, are they a founder, are they a CMO, stuff like that. And from there you can get a wealth of information on what's important to people. And you can find out, like, for example, I don't know the details of the real estate example that you had, Manish, but maybe it's like what pain points do people have in this industry? Where are they having challenges? Where do they feel burned? Where do they feel like they're wasting money or wasting time? You can look for those kinds of conversations and pull up at least 100 to 150 verbatims and then analyze that again using AI. It can analyze all of that data and find out clusters on what are the topics that seem to be showing up more often. So maybe you have about three common clusters, and then from there you can get in their own language how people are talking about things that matter to them. And that's really, it can set a foundation for personas, for the business plan, like what product are you offering, how do you want to fine tune it, what matters to your customer, and then how do you want to position the brand and talk about it to them. I know that was a bit of a mouthful, so I don't know if you have any questions for me to help narrow that down to something more useful for this conversation.
Well, I think it is definitely more complex than just opening up ChatGPT and typing a prompt, which is something. If you want to again connect with Tracy, I highly recommend it because her LinkedIn feed is quite helpful, has a lot of interesting presentations, but also you can talk to her about exactly as she said, what is the framework, what is the structure of developing prompts, which are your conversation starters with whatever AI tool or platform you use. I mean, ChatGPT is just one. And then how do you use the internet, right? And I mean, I look at AI as like a really, really, from a research standpoint, it is a very, very advanced version of what we used to do with Google. And of course, Google has Gemini, which offers similar, advantages. And then the last thing that we always need to circle back with AI right now is validate, right? Somehow you need to have something in your prompt or your assumptions that you've already validated, because I know I've found errors, Tracy's found errors in the outputs through AI, and you don't want to be caught presenting or sharing information or making a decision, right, based on
Absolutely.
erroneous data or information. As useful as it is, it has a very, very long way to go, even though it is trying its best to replace people like Tracy and myself. So, Tracy, I didn't know if you had anything more specific you wanted to get
Yeah,
into.
I do want to circle the AI topic back to the American Eagle situation. So we're all familiar with the Sydney Sweeney Great Jeans campaign. Whether you like it or not, there's a brand lesson we can learn here. We know that the American Eagle team knew that they were going to create a little mischief. Like that's quoted from their president, that when they were launching this, they knew that they were going to have some edge to this campaign and it could ruffle some feathers. Now, which feathers were ruffled? I don't know if they were aware of that. But one way a brand could test the waters on an edgy or humorous campaign would be to use something like ChatGPT or like AI tool of your choice and present the concept and then give it a role. Say, assume the role of my Gen Z core audience. You can give it the age, demographics, like whatever your targeting or persona details are. So flesh that out and then put your campaign concept up there. So your photo, your tagline, all of that, and ask, do you see any blind spots? How will this audience respond to this campaign? Will there be any other halo effects from like other people who see this campaign? How are they going to respond? And that can give you a little bit of a gut check to find out if there's any blind spots you didn't consider before you go live with an edgy or humorous campaign. Nothing against edge or humor. Like I feel like that's what makes brands interesting and makes our advertising fun. But if you want to avoid some kind of a backlash and have a mistake that you don't intend, running a little gut check like that can be really helpful. It just takes a few minutes.
And you can add more information. Like for instance, you don't have to just for Cracker Barrel, right? What if Cracker Barrel said something like, we want to compete with Chipotle, and we want to carve. Chipotle is obviously loaded with kids. I know in our neighborhood and other neighborhoods, kids from high school, they get out of school and the first place they go is a Chipotle or someplace like that, right? But is that what Cracker Barrel did they, we have to look at the postmortem of that whole process. Did they actually do a focus group with younger people, and maybe it was appealing to them, and they totally forgot their legacy audience, right? That's a
Yep.
possibility. Like, oh, we've got these guys. We don't need, I believe firmly sometimes in, you've got an audience. Now, how do we expand? Well, it's quite possible they went that route and said, well, we've got these people already. Let's say, be even more generous, 55 and over crowd. How do we get 18 to 35-year olds into Cracker Barrel? And you totally missed your current customer, which, while maybe might be dwindling, still significant. And
Absolutely.
so there's tools that, again, you can use that are real, tangible, like focus groups, panel surveys online. I mean, logos and like product design, right? Do very well with online research. Again, all has to be validated, and ultimately the market would validate it. You can pilot things, right? We know that, like, fast food companies love to use Columbus, Ohio as the place to pilot new products or new chains, new concepts, before they just decide to invest in, rolling it out in several thousand chain stores, or developing a brand from scratch. They'll test it out, and if it doesn't test well, they'll kill it. That's expensive, right? But and there are ways, I think, where Tracy and I, and especially all of Tracy's insights come in handy, is for small to mid-sized businesses that, again, don't have all the luxuries of being able to pilot or test, where you have to kind of roll the dice to some extent, because that's what some of this is ultimately, until you put it out in the real world. um, you have to roll the dice. I mean, another example I know Tracy and I discussed was Ford. When they came out with their electric vehicle platform, the first vehicle they launched was the Ford Lightning, which was the F-150 large pickup truck version. So they came out with the electric pickup truck. And did they actually, their intention was to increase their carbon credits, right? So that they wouldn't face those, federal fines or obstacles when you don't have enough EVs or low enough CO2 output in your fleet. What they did, though, is they made a vehicle for a customer demographic that, for the most part, is not totally on board with the electric vehicle concept. The pickup driving, the utility purpose worker who, like, needs something that they are confident will haul, a pallet of bricks, or a payload of sod, or whatever the case is, construction material, etc. That audience, I doubt very much they paid as much attention as they should have to those folks, and that's why the Lightning kind of met with very, very mixed. I mean, maybe a great product, but it met with very, very a mixed reaction in terms of market success, to the point where, prices have to be dropped, inventory has to lay around for a long time, and decisions. I don't know if they've quite made a U-turn, but I know they've definitely hurt from having made that decision.
Right.
Um,
Which
yeah.
makes me think
So, I
more.
mean, again,
Um,
testing.
mhm. Yeah, testing and really going back to brand intention. That if you want to avoid risks that are going to hit your brand negatively, staying true to your intentions, I feel, is really important. With American Eagle, when they had criticism of the Sydney Sweeney campaign, they leaned in and they didn't back down. Like they stood behind their decision, they stood behind their campaign, and that was their intention. Like it or not, they stood behind it. It's important just to have decisions that are made on purpose. So making choices that align with your brand mission, values, and your customer needs. And that could be where Cracker Barrel made a mistake. They have a core demographic and those customers have values and needs. So when they made all those changes, that alienated this core demographic, even though they might have been trying to reach, expand a new audience. It's also important to have consistency. So we see a lot of things happening, especially with, we have access to news at lightning speeds, and we see the trends and all kinds of cool things happening in marketing. And we're like, oh my God, I had to participate in that. But it's important to have fit over FOMO. You want to make sure that if there's trends and collaborations, that they're still aligned to your brand values, that they fit your brand, because otherwise they just become distractions. And it's important just to stay consistent. So if your actions as a brand are intentional, you basically build a coherent thread, and this thread will stay consistent throughout your brand activities. If you're reactive, that makes your brand fragmented, and that ultimately dilutes your brand equity and can erode trust. So don't feel like you have to chase every trend, chase every collaboration, do one-offs. Like, your brand mission, values, and intention should be integral to your brand guidelines and should really inform everything that you do.
Well, I mean, that I think rounds out what we were going to talk about today in this first chat. We're going to do more. We're going to get into greater detail. I think we've barely scratched the surface on the AI topic, and maybe get into more practical examples next time of things that build off of this topic. So I don't know, Tracy, if you had anything more to add before we wrap.
I don't have anything else to add. I think this was pretty fun. If people have questions and they want to pick our brains, yeah, just send us a note.
We are both located in central Jersey, not too far away from New York City. So if you're in the city and you want to meet, you can also send us a note to set that up. And of course, there is the digital meeting space that most of us kind of encounter each other on. But thanks, Tracy, for kicking this off or restarting this LinkedIn Live and YouTube and other places platform for me. And hopefully everyone got a little bit of at least information, a little teaser of what else we can get into with you, so that we can not totally eliminate the risk of what could happen, but at the very least we can minimize those risks for your business or your brand. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, Tracy. And you can always catch this on YouTube later on if you missed anything. Thank you. See ya. Bye.